Hello everybody and welcome to CAD-Prof.com. This is lesson 2 of the landscape series. Along with the video file, you'll notice that there was 2 other attachments that were available. These PDF files, the absolute coordinate and the relative coordinate, we'll be referring to early on in the lesson. Please place them on your desktop, and as we start the program, we'll be referring to those 2 documents. If you have 2 screens, it makes it a bit easier. Or you can print them off, which will make the reference to those diagrams even easier. So I've launched AutoCAD. I'll simply lower the bottom of the screen so that we can get a full screen effect. And as we've done before, we're going to start a brand new drawing. We're simply clicking on the A, scrolling down and selecting New. Once again, it accesses the template file. We always use the acad.dwt template for this series of lessons. So I click on that and I'll select Open. Just click on the arrow at the top of your screen, and if it says Show Menu Bar, click on that. If you already have the secondary menu, you can skip this process. Now, for the purposes of this project, we're going to remove this icon in the upper right-hand corner. It refers to isometric as well as 3-dimensional drawings, and so I don't want anybody accidentally touching that. Their screen will go out of whack, and sometimes that gets confusing. So in order to do that, in the first row of text menus, you see the word View. Just click on that. And the icon that's highlighted that says View Cube, just click on that, and it'll remove that cube. And then select the Home menu once again. And now we're ready to begin the drawing. So with our virtual space that we were working with yesterday, we really didn't set up any parameters. And as such, we're drawing without any sort of units or measurements or anything of that nature. We're going to be working on the 2 PDFs. So I'm just simply going to open that up very quickly. I'm just minimizing the program. And I'm going to look at the absolute coordinate PDF file. You may notice when that comes in, it may be in the other direction. Simply rotate it. This is the drawing that we're going to work with. And it's designed to simply help you understand how CAD interacts with the user. We're going to be using the basic absolute coordinate system, which is not really used other than for specific fields such as surveying. In surveying, you have a benchmark, a start point, and then you move towards all the different coordinates. So we're going to do something basically like that, but then we're going to move to relative coordinates, which makes the whole process much simpler. So you may want to print off these 2 copies. I'll be referring to them as we work through the program, just so that we have something in front of us that we can reference as we're drawing. I'm going to open up the AutoCAD file once again. And in order to work with that particular project, we must first set up the drawing parameters. And these drawing parameters are based on the size. So when you look at the absolute coordinates of that particular item, we're looking at it as though it was on graph paper. So you can see the lower left, upper right hand corners and what numbers that we're dealing with. In this particular case, we're dealing with a lower corner of 2,2 and the upper corner of 10,6. Again, this lesson is to help you understand how CAD thinks and how we prepare the environment. So in landscaping, we use the unit measurement of architecture. So architectural units refer to landscape design, architectural design, interior design, or anything that we measure in feet and inches. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our environment in feet and inches. And in order to do that, we simply type in the word units. You'll notice I haven't clicked anywhere. In fact, if you have clicked on anything, press Escape first. I'm simply going to click on my screen, type in UNITS, and you can see the word appears, and then press Enter. Now, the Units menu itself allows us to define what type of measurement we're working in. The default, or the setting that always starts with that particular template file, is decimal. So that's a nondescript unit measurement. We're going to be working with architectural. Precision is based on what you're going to see on the screen as opposed to the accuracy. The accuracy of CAD is 16 decimal places. But the precision is what we see when we actually physically dimension. So we can leave that as is, and we'll select OK. Nothing's changed on our screen, but what we will notice is this. Last day when we clicked on the line tool, you may have had numbers on your screen that appeared like 1000 or 200. Now, when I move my mouse after clicking on the line command onto the screen, notice I get feet and inches, 1 foot 4 and 5/16, 1 foot 2 and 3/8. I haven't clicked anywhere, but that simply is defining in feet and inches my actual space. Now I'm going to press escape because the other thing we're going to set is our actual page parameters. How big is the page? So as I identified earlier, in the drawing that we're working in, you'll notice that the PDF file identifies an overall space. I'm just going to pull that up very quickly, of 10,6. So what is that referring to? Well, it's referring to a measurement, and in this particular case, our units are in inches. So this is 10 inches, 6 inches relative to the start point, which is 2 inches, 2 inches. That'll make a bit more sense momentarily. So I want a piece of paper that will allow me to accommodate this. So I want a piece of paper that's at least 12 inches wide, and then it's at least 9 inches tall. So let's minimize this screen. I'm just going to click on the background. That will bring my CAD drawing up. And in order to initiate that page area that we're going to draw, we simply type in the word limits. So LIMITS. Now again, if you have some template files, this is already placed inside of that particular template, so you don't have to go through it. But it's worthwhile understanding what it is that we're doing in order to understand later on in the print menu what it's asking. So limits, I press enter. You'll notice at the bottom it's asking me what is the lower left-hand corner. So this is an alignment feature. If we're bringing in drawings from other sources, let's say manufacturers or anything like that, we want to have some point of reference so that we can align drawings together. It's really something that's designed for 3D, but we can use it in 2D drawing as well. The lower left limit is always 0, 0, and you can see here it's already identified as 0 feet 0 inches, 0 feet 0 inches. So we simply press enter. We don't have to type anything in. Now it's asking me for my page size, and the page size is relative to the object. In this case, the object is very small, and we can fit it on a page that's 9 inches by 12 or 8.5 by 11. So what we're going to do is specify the width to be 12 and the height to be 9. Now, by chance, well, not really, AutoCAD DWT template automatically selects a page that's 12 inches by 9 inches, and that's why we've used these particular numbers. Now, you'll notice that the first value is 1 foot, the second value is 9 inches. So let's accept that and see what that means. Nothing happens on our page visually, but in fact, we've actually identified our drawing area. We just can't see it. In order to see the drawing area, we're going to switch down here into our drawing aids. Again, drawing aids are designed to help us visually see what it is that we're working with. Last day we toggled the drawing grid, and if I click that on or off, I can see that. This time we're going to adjust this grid. So to the right of that, there's an arrow that points down. It's called Snap Mode. I'm going to click on that arrow. This is actually the area that allows us to adjust the snap settings. So when I click on that arrow that points down, you'll notice you got polar snap, grid snap, snap settings. Click on snap settings. And all these terms will become a bit more familiar as we work through the program. We get this menu. The only thing we're going to adjust here is in the lower right hand corner where it says grid behavior. We're going to remove adaptive grid and display grid beyond limits. Right now it's displaying a massive grid that goes well beyond what we've defined. But in this case, we've removed those two, so we're actually going to see the page area that we're going to work in. This simply identifies how frequent the grid is. So in our case, we have a 9-inch by 12-inch piece of paper. It's going to divide each inch into half unit or half-inch markers. So we're going to see that happen momentarily. You'll notice that it also has a function key F7 that allows us to turn the grid on or off. It's indicated here. We identified that in the last lesson. So let's select OK. When I select OK, my page looks like this. Now, if your page doesn't look like mine right now, stop the video, repeat the process. So let's let these limits fill our screen. How do we do that? It's a process we learned last lesson, which is the zoom all function. So type in Z enter, A enter, and there is our grid. So this is 12 units wide, 9 units tall. You may or may not have noticed when we typed in the command, we accepted the default as 12,9. What do those numbers mean? Those numbers refer to the absolute coordinates of the page in X and Y. And you can see the icon at the bottom. This is the coordinate system, or the UCS icon, which simply identifies that Y goes up and down and X goes horizontally. So when we type in values, we have to type in the horizontal value first and then the vertical value, or the X comes before the Y, just like in the alphabet, and we do the same here. So let's start this drawing. Take a look at your PDF file, and you'll notice that I have a start point of 2, 2. So in order to draw a line, we're going to start with the line command. So we go up into the draw menu, click on line in the ribbon at the top of our screen. And this time, instead of clicking on the screen, we simply type in 2, 2 and press enter. And you'll notice it places a point of a line. And I can move my mouse around, and it shows me all these different values, angles, and direction and all that. Well, I don't want to use this in absolute values. What I want to do is type in the position. And this is something that we would actually use, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, in surveying. Now, to remove these indicators that are on your screen, simply press the F12 key that's at the top of your screen, and you'll notice that that should all disappear. And now when you move your cursor, the line doesn't have the angles and the direction and all that. So in this particular case, we're starting at the bottom left-hand corner of the drawing. We're going to go in a clockwise direction. You'll notice that the next input point is 2, 6. And that's the way we type it in, 2, 6, and press enter. You notice I didn't have to restart the line command. I'm already in it. And as I'm in it, it will allow me simply to type in these coordinates. And you can see it's following the grid. As we move in that clockwise direction, you have 4, 6, and then 6, 4, and so on and so forth. So complete the drawing as we work through. Now, I'm going to show you some steps in case you make a mistake. Notice the command prompt down here is identifying all the coordinates you've put in. If the drawing goes out of whack, for instance, instead of 10, 6, I'm going to type in 6, 10 and enter. And my line went completely hayward. So what I can do is take a look at what I typed in, 6, 10, take a look at the drawing. It should have been 10, 6. What can I do at this step? Well, I could erase and restart the command, or in the middle of this command, you'll notice in the command prompt I have an undo function, and the highlighted letter is U. So let's type that in, U, and enter, and that will remove the last input, 6, 10. Now I can type in the correct one, 10, 6, and press enter. So at any time you make a mistake, you can undo, and you can undo a sequence of lines. So if I keep typing U and enter, it just keeps removing lines. And then again, I'm not pressing the line command, I'm just inputting the data. So again, here I'll just type in 8, 6, then I'll do 10, 6, and I'll move through the whole object and redo everything that I had done until I had made my mistake. And I'll continue around until I complete the drawing here. There we go. Once I've completed the drawing, I simply press enter. Now, absolute coordinates is, like I mentioned a couple times now, typical of what you would do in surveying, which simply means you have the first point and then you have an absolute position for the second point and an absolute position for the third. Well, this isn't a very realistic way of drawing. In fact, it has very limited possibilities when you draw this way. Instead, we use a different method, and the method that we're going to be using is the relative coordinate system. So let's take a look at the diagram that refers to. And in that diagram, what we're doing is we're typing in values in a different manner. The start point is exactly the same, and we're going to go in a clockwise fashion once again. From the start point, instead of typing in an absolute position, we're going to type in what's called a relative position. So what does that mean? So based on our start point, where are we moving along the X and Y axis? So in this case, you can see by the measurements that we're going 4 inches straight up, 2 inches to the right. This middle point is moving 2 inches to the right and 2 inches down simultaneously. This has to be in coordination with our UCS icon. Remember, X is horizontal, Y is vertical. X is the first inputted value, Y is the second. So when I'm moving from the start location to my second position, I'm moving up along the Y axis only. The X axis is not changing. Anytime I'm drawing a horizontal line, I'm drawing along the X axis. A vertical line, I'm drawing along the Y axis. If I've got a diagonal line, I'm drawing along the X and Y axis at the same time. So we're going to start at the same point. Now, where was this start point? That start point was 2, 2. That's our initial input. And usually when we want to start a drawing, we're starting from a benchmark, some sort of initial position. If you've received a survey drawing and you want to place your landscape drawing on top of it, you usually want to start your drawing from a known position from the landscape drawing or a benchmark and measure to that using X and Y values to find it. So we're going to do that in a similar fashion, but we're going to start at 2, 2 and then work through the diagram using that type of coordinate system. Okay, for this particular instance, I'm going to erase everything that's on my screen. So how do I erase that? Just simply draw a window or a crossing. So I'm going to click on the Erase tool. There's my Modify tool. And then I'll create a window and press Enter. So it's gone. Okay, I'm going to start the Line tool once again. And our first point was 2, 2. That's an absolute value. Now remember when we first started this, we had all these different symbols that were on our screen. We're going to bring that back up. So press F12. And by switching to F12, what we've now done is switch to the relative coordinate positioning. So last time we typed in 2, 6 to get the second point. This time we're going to type in the relative position, or 4 straight up along the y-axis. So we're going to type in 0, 4. And what this does is simply identify we're going 0 along x, 4 along y. Now let's move to the right 2 units. Well, in order to do that, we're moving along x and not y, so we'll type in 2, 0. You can see that the x and y position, or the order that we're typing the information in, is very important. And we must get used to the fact that x comes first and x is horizontal. So notice here, we're going down along the y-axis. We're still moving to the right, and this is important. Anything to the right is positive along x. Anything to the left is negative along x. Anything straight up is positive along y. Anything straight down is negative along y. So let's type in our second value. Well, we're going positive along x 2 units, and we're going negative along y 2 units. So we'll type in 2, -2 and press Enter. And that gave us that position straight down 2 units and straight over 2 units. So now we're going up to the next position, and that's 2, 2. And then we're going straight to the right 2 units, which is 2, 0. Now going straight down 4, again, I'm looking at my drawing. Notice how it's indicating as 0, -4. Once again, we're not moving along x. We're simply moving down along the y position. And here, I can type in -8, 0. If I continually draw this without leaving the command and then re-entering the command, I simply type in C and enter for close. And what that will allow me to do is simply close the object in that sequence. Now, had I had stopped along the way and then restarted the line command, I would have to have typed in the actual last value, because C-enter will then close to where I started that line command. So there's a couple of nuances here that we're introducing to help you identify how you work with the actual program. So let's say, for instance, we do work with this and have made a mistake and we want to pick up where we left off. One of the exercises I want you to do is this particular one in the reverse order, because the numbers that I've supplied on the drawing are now incorrect. We're going to start at the same start position, but this time we're going to go 8 units to the right and work the problem in a counterclockwise manner. So none of the values that I have on that PDF are now correct. Okay, let's try this. So let's erase what we have. I'm going to use the erase tool. Select everything on my screen. Window crossing, press enter. And we're going to reinitiate the line command. So I'll click on line. Now since I'm starting from nowhere, I can simply type in 2, 2 because that's the absolute value of where it's going to start. And I'm going to move to the right 8 units. So I'm going in the opposite direction. So this time it's 8, 0. And then I'm going to go up 4 units. So it's 0, 4. And then I'm going to go to the left 2 units. Now I'm going to make a mistake here and show you how to pick things up from an error. So here I'm going to type in 2, 0 instead of negative 2, 0. And I've gone the wrong direction. Okay. I showed you earlier on how to undo this, but let's say for whatever reason you've pressed enter and exited the line command. Now I've got to pick up that spot. Okay, so now I'm going to erase that line, so I click on the erase command, click on the line, press enter. And now I want to pick up that point. Let's say I don't know its absolute coordinate. How do I pick up that point? Where CAD works the 16 decimal place accuracy, so I want to pick up the exact end of that line. I'm going to click on the line command, and I'm going to move my mouse over, and notice I have this green square. So this is a function that comes with CAD that really helps us with the accuracy of this. That is called a snap function, and we're going to explore this in detail as we go through the program, but I just want to draw your attention to it because it's very critical. I don't want to be on the end of the line. I want to be near the end, and you'll notice if I click, and you can do the same, the line snaps to that position. And that's very helpful in what we're doing. So how did it know to do that? Okay. Down at the bottom of your screen, if it didn't do that, it's because this symbol right here is not highlighted. By default, it's already selected. But I want to click on the arrow to the right of that. And you'll notice that I have this menu. This is our snap menu, or our object snap settings menu. And this is set up already as our default. So it's automatically looking for intersections, center of circles, and points of lines. The symbolism here is important too because it helps you recognize what you're looking at. You'll notice that the endpoint of line has a square, an intersection has a cross. This is already set up. We don't have to touch it. If you don't have these 3 settings on, simply click on them and they toggle on or off. So I have those 3 on. When I click on the line command, it's looking for those inherently. If I go to this line, notice it comes up with that box at the end. So it's actually finding the endpoint of that line, the endpoint of that line. So that's what allows me to click on or select a position we already know and then draw from there. So I've clicked on the end of that line. I can now continue what it is that I was doing. So I'm moving 2 units to the left, so it's -2, 0. Now I'm moving 2 to the left and 2 down, so it's -2, -2. And I'm moving 2 to the left and 2 up, so it's -2, 2. And I'm moving straight 2 to the left, so it's -2, 0. Now, notice how I had restarted the line here. If I type in C and enter, that line is going to go right back to where I restarted the line. That's why I can't pick that up. So how do I pick up the end of this line? Well, I have 2 options. Now that I know that the snap function, this green box, uses the same 16 decimal place accuracy, all I need to do is click on the line. Now, new CAD users have a habit of trying to get that line right on that box. That's not necessary. In fact, it's more accurate that you see the box, and then when you click on that line, it will snap to that position. Once we've done that, we'll press enter. So once we've created this object, you can go back to the exercises for absolute and relative, practice them a couple of times, along with setting up this page screen size as well as the units. And we don't need to save this file, it's simply a practice file. So I'm going to close that down. Where it says drawing number 1, I'm going to click on the X. It'll ask me to save this, but again, we don't need this file, so just select no, and then we can start again. So let's do a quick recap on what we learned today. We're going to start a brand new file. Select File, New from the menu. We're going to select the AutoCAD DWT drawing that we usually start with. we're going to set up our units. So we simply type in the word units. We don't have to click anywhere. We're going to change the length from decimal to architectural. Don't worry about precision right now. Select OK. And now we're going to set up our page parameters. This one's going to be slightly different. We'll type in the word limits. The bottom left-hand corner is always 0, 0, and that's what's set up here right now. So we simply press the Enter key. The upper right-hand corner this time is going to be a larger piece of paper. It's going to be 4 feet. Now, we haven't used the foot marker yet. The default setting in architectural is inches. So if I type in 48, it knows it's 48 inches. If I use the apostrophe key, that's on the right side of your keyboard, you'll notice that right beside the Enter key, there's a key that looks like inches above, and then below that is the apostrophe. Just click on that. And then we're going to use the comma symbol. And the other distance will be 6 feet. So that means 4 feet along X, 6 feet along Y. Press Enter. Now let's see what we've done with our screen. Remember, we haven't visually seen any changes, but we're going to do so momentarily. At the bottom of our screen, we're going to select the snap settings, which is just to the right of the grid icon. It's the arrow that points down, and then we click on snap settings. Here I'm going to leave it at a 1/2 inch, but I'm going to remove the grid behavior adaptive grid, display grid, and select OK. So let's see our entire page. Type in Z enter, A enter, and there's our grid. 4 feet wide, 6 feet tall. Now you can see how this grid is very, very dense. So I may want to change the visual aspect of it. So I'm going to go back down into my snap settings. And rather than 1/2 inch, I'm going to divide up my grid paper into 1 inch segments and then select OK, and you'll notice that the grid is half as dense. So let's start a line command, and we're going to work in both an absolute and relative coordinates. So just click on the line command, and we're going to start at 1 foot, 1 foot, or 12, 12. And it's just so that all of our drawings look exactly the same. Now this particular object, you're going to just follow the instructions as I'm providing them. It goes 4 feet straight up. So we're going to type in 0, 4 feet, press Enter. It goes 11 inches to the right, so we'll type in 11, 0. It goes 4 feet straight down, so we'll type in 0, negative 4 feet and Enter. And since we drew that all in one sequence, we'll type in C and Enter. And now I'm going to pick up a point at the top, and we're going to draw an object near the top of it. But the object is fairly small. You can see there's very little grid paper left. So I'm going to roll my mouse, and I'm going to pan it so I can see the top of the grid area, and I'm going to focus my attention here. So this kind of recaps our zoom command. I'm going to click on line, and I'm going to pick up this corner right here. And I know that I've got it when I see that green box. That's my snap endpoint, so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to create a line that goes an inch to the left. So I'll type in -1, 0. And this particular line goes 2 inches straight up. So I'll type in 0, 2. And the next segment goes 2 inches up and 6.5 inches to the right. So I'll type in 6.5. Now a 1/2 inch, I can use the 0.5 or decimal value to it. And that's a simpler way of typing in fraction inches. So 6.5, 2. And I'm going to do the same going down and to the right. So this time I'll type in 6.5. The x is the same, only this time it's going to be -2. And I want to go down 2 inches, so I'm going to type in 0, -2. And I want to end the cap right at this point here. Now, once I've got that point, I'm going to select Enter. I said end the cap. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to see momentarily. I'm going to click on the line command, and I'm going to draw a line from this corner on the left side of the cap to this corner on the right side of the cap. I'm going to press Enter. scroll back, take a look at this diagram. Is it familiar at all? Well, if you look at the PDF file that was provided to you in lesson number 1, it's actually part of the fence. We're actually starting to draw our project. So we can save this. We're going to be looking at several different commands as we work through the program. But at this point, you can save this just so that you have it. We're going to start a brand new drawing next lesson and start on the actual gate and the 2 pilasters on either side. So thank you for joining us. That's all that we have for today. Remember, you must practice these lessons. It does take a lot of practice. There is a bit of a learning curve. If you repeat it over and over again, use the video to your advantage. Stop, pause, rewind. Make sure that you understand each of the commands and how they operate. Next day we'll be looking at some of the more advanced commands, including layers and properties, and continue on with the actual capstone project. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at another time.